Hi, everybody.
Hey there. We're just waiting to go simultaneously live on YouTube, so I hope that'll start in just a moment.
Yeah, we are very high tech right now. Many cameras and lighting, which we never have before.
That's right, which reminds me I need to turn this light on so we look even better. There we
Ooh,
go.
now we're all balanced. So hi guys, we're just waiting for our YouTube to
I'm
start.
so sorry, I don't know what's happening with this.
No, don't worry.
Let me try refreshing it.
And for those of you who are just hopping on, I'm Megan Drillinger and this is Mark Chestnut, and we are going to be talking about travel to Mexico and the new CDC guidelines that have gone into effect that might be confusing people. And we're just gonna go live on YouTube as well, so we're just waiting for that to start.
So sorry about this. But yeah, in the meantime, do we want to talk a little bit about? Hold on a second. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Just give
live. Let me go.
I've followed you for years now. I've also enjoyed your articles. Oh, thank you. That's really nice of you. Thanks for saying that. And thank you everybody who is clicking on. We'll just give it a couple more minutes for people to come in, and then we will jump right into it. Also, if you have any questions, we will be taking questions as it's going, so feel free to pop it into the little question box at the bottom. You can type it in the screen, but it's kind of harder to scroll back, so just pop it in the question box if you feel like doing that. And yeah.
And I'm not sure what's going on with YouTube right now, so maybe while it's still trying to focus, we can go ahead and start because we can always recap a little bit,
and I can
right?
save this and send it to you.
That's true.
To put it on YouTube.
So now Instagram Live can be downloaded. That's perfect, because
Yes.
that was one of my little pet peeves about Instagram Live in the past, was that you did it and it was kind of locked forever in Instagram. But now Megan informs me that you can actually download it so you can share it on other platforms, right?
Yes, they got the memo that we were not happy about that.
That's right. So why are we here?
So we are here because of Mexico. And Mark and I both love and know Mexico very well, as you know. We go, or used to go, all the time. Sadly, this year, so much is different. Travel to Mexico, travel anywhere included. But most recently, you might have seen that the CDC has come out with a new advisory saying that Mexico has been bumped up to a level 4 travel warning, which means basically do not travel unless it is absolutely necessary. So what does that mean exactly? Well, the CDC specifically says that traveling to and from Mexico is a top way to either contract COVID or to spread COVID. And why is that happening? Well, this is happening. I can't say for certain. I'm not a doctor. I don't work I'm not affiliated in any way with the government in the US or Mexico. But I can pretty much say with certainty that the reason why Mexico has now become a hot spot and a warning for travel is because Americans have been traveling there without any restrictions and have taken advantage of that to the absolute fullest. And that's where we're kind of running into these problems. So Mark and I are going to I've been to Mexico twice. How many times have you been to Mexico since pandemic?
I actually take note of this. I've taken 10 flights to 4 destinations, stayed in 8 hotels, 1 Airbnb, and then of course multiple restaurants and museums, all in the name of reporting on the current reality. So
Yes.
we write for 2 of the top travel industry publications, and so our readership include a lot of the top travel agents, travel advisors, and so they need to know, some of them are traveling too, but they really need to know what the reality is so that they can better inform and educate their clients.
Mm-hmm. So now we're here to educate you again, just to let you know kind of why things have skyrocketed in Mexico, what part we're playing in that, and how maybe we can help bring the risk level down. So let's start with air travel. Do you want to tell me about your last flight in Mexico?
Yes, my last trip to Mexico was to Los Cabos, which is one of Mexico's top beach resort destinations in Baja California Sur, in Baja California. Beautiful destination, and in terms of flights, the experience actually is basically similar to what I've had on the other trips that I've taken since July. I've been traveling about once a month. And so there are a lot of protocols in place now, a lot of hygiene protocols. It's not as simple an affair to fly now as it used to be. So, but they're doing more in Mexico than they're doing the U.S. airports, I've found. Do you agree?
I do find that, yes. Even though, well, I've only flown in and out of Cancun, and my experience was a little bit different. I found it to be very overcrowded and not a lot of social distancing. And we were made to fill out health forms that were never collected, so it just felt like business as usual as in pre-pandemic times. But it felt like that at JFK too. So I'm not saying that it's just a Mexico problem. It just felt like flying in general was kind of back to normal, and that's not a good thing.
Right, and yeah, in Mexico, all of Mexico airports now, whether you're flying in or flying out of Mexico, they do have the health forms that you need to fill out. I believe in all of the trips that I've taken, they did collect the form at some point, and there's also a digital version that you can actually fill out online and get an email receipt even, and so they can collect it that way too, which may be an easier idea, an easier way to do it instead of filling out the health form. So yeah, it is strange. But yeah, they're going to check your temperature when you arrive and when you depart. That's not invasive, though. They don't point the temperature gun at your head, but they have the biothermic scanners, I believe.
Yes, you walk through that.
Right.
That I remember that.
But it is troubling that there is not necessarily consistency in terms of the forms being taken and that information being recorded about the incoming travelers. So that's one of the reasons why you really need to think about traveling now and whether now is the time to travel, because for most people, it's not. It's good to stay informed before you make an educated decision about what you're going to do.
Yeah, and the thing is that I do firmly believe that safe travel could be a thing if everybody played by the rules. These rules have been put in place, these regulations have been put in place to keep not only travelers safe, but your family and friends safe when you return home, and the people who live in the country that you're visiting. And the problem is, people on the ground in Mexico absolutely have to abide by these rules and regulations, because without tourism, their economy basically crumbles in specific tourist destinations. Now, a country relying on tourist dollars for their economy to go around is a separate issue that we won't get into right now. I feel like, that it shouldn't be that way, but it is. So the fact that they are relying on tourists to come in is even more of an incentive for tourists to come in and play by the rules and keep the people safe who are welcoming you into their own country. But now we're being told to stay out of Mexico because we couldn't play by the rules, and cases are skyrocketing there and cases are skyrocketing here. So with that said, how do you feel about the air travel is a huge reason because of why that is. For example, many airlines aren't blocking out the middle seat. I know American Airlines isn't blocking out the middle seat. United is not blocking out the middle seat. Delta says they're blocking out the middle seat.
But they didn't when you flew, right?
They did not. Because
it's by aircraft type, did you say?
Now it's by aircraft type. And you wouldn't have known that if you don't get press releases from Delta. Because they're not, now that they're getting all the praise for blocking out the middle seat, they're not going to say, oh, but by the way, it's not on every plane. They did send a press release out about that, but if you're not checking Delta's newsroom, I don't know why I missed it, so I didn't know that. But now let's talk, I guess we should talk a little bit about the hotel experience.
Hotel experience, I have to say, in general, I'm impressed in Mexico consistently. And like I said, I've stayed in how many hotels? 8 different hotels since July in Mexico. And in general, I'm really impressed, especially with the staff. The hotels have the protocols in place. Most of them, I've stayed in hotels in Mexico City, Cancun, Riviera Nayarit, and in Los Cabos. And all of the hotels that I've stayed at, they follow not only state guidelines and federal guidelines from the Mexican government, but they also generally also follow additional safety and hygiene protocols as dictated by their corporate ownership or the chain to which they belong. So, for example, when I stay at the Hyatt Ziva in Los Cabos or in Cancun, they're following their state guidelines, but they also have additional level of security and hygiene based on Hyatt's own program and Playa Hotels and Resorts program. So I'm impressed with that. Staff members are always with their masks on, and I think that's really great. The problem that I've seen in some cases is that hotel guests are not always wearing masks. Right now, in general, it's I still feel okay because I can avoid them easily, and I don't have to sit indoors near them. I can sit outdoors, and hotels are all, I believe, in all the major destinations in Mexico now operating at reduced capacity based on guidelines, right?
Yes.
So. But what troubles me is to see a lot of people without masks, and those are all the foreigners. They're not the locals. They're not the hotel staff. It's some foreigners who arrive, foreigners like from countries like ours, and they may be walking around without a mask. Obviously, they're not wearing a mask if they're eating or drinking, or if you're in the water or reclining at the pool. But when you're walking around anywhere, indoors or outdoors, I believe the CDC even just said this now. For the United States, they want you to wear a mask indoors anywhere except when you're at home.
Yeah. Yep. And that's what I've been finding. People, when the 2 times I've been to Mexico since pandemic, the travelers that I've seen are treating Mexico like this COVID-free playground that is theirs. And they are hanging out in groups, and they are walking up to the bar. They're talking to the staff without masks. It's really it's like they touch down in Mexico, they rip the mask off, and it's like it doesn't exist anymore. And I understand COVID fatigue. We all have COVID fatigue, but it's for this reason specifically why cases are going up, and why now the CDC is kind of taking away this opening that we had to practice safe travel. And it's just because we couldn't really play by the rules, I think, as travelers.
Yeah, and for me, as we have to travel in order to do our job, in order to be travel writers and reporters for the travel industry publications for which we work, and for our own blogs as well. We have to stay on the road. We have to get out there and report on the realities. But I feel that it's my responsibility, if I'm going to do that, in order to continue working, continue traveling, I have to take the precautions to protect myself, but also other people. Other people in the airport, other people in the destinations where I'm visiting, and the hotels. So when I fly, I wear not only a face mask, I also wear a face shield during boarding process and in the airport, because they say that airports are like among the worst places. The aircraft themselves aren't that dangerous. So if you must travel, and if you need to make that decision to travel, this ain't the old world. This isn't January 2020. This is December 2020, and we still don't have the vaccine yet. So you really have to do what you can to protect yourself and others, and be a responsible traveler. Because most people should not be traveling now, but if you do, you need to take those precautions. And unfortunately, we can't take a vacation from the reality of today's situation. So it doesn't matter if you're on the most beautiful beach resort in a hotel. You've gotta do your part.
Yeah, and the other thing that people are not considering is that we of all people love to travel. There's nothing greater than travel from start to finish. But let me tell you, it is not the same world. It's not the same relaxing experience that you have anticipated before. Airports are incredibly stressful. It doesn't feel safe in the airport. You're constantly on edge. By the time you get to the resort itself feels safe because, like Mark said, you can do your part in maintaining your own distance. But what is vacation really about that? For me, I love going and sitting and talking to people and meeting people, and I love meeting people from all over the world. And now I'm kind of agoraphobic. I don't want anyone near me, and it doesn't feel good when I'm there, because I'm thinking about, I'm putting myself at risk, I'm putting other people at risk. What am I bringing back with me? And then this isn't true for every state, but to come back to New York State, you need to show a negative COVID test. So running around Cancun trying to get a PCR test, first of all, took a whole day out of my trip, cost $125 per person. We had to wait for the test results to come in, so we were still kind of confined to our room anyway, because we didn't want to, take a test and then risk contracting it somewhere else. Then we get back to New York, and we had to quarantine for 72 hours, take another test, quarantine until those results came back. So it takes the whole fun out of having a vacation. I mean,
Yeah,
and
it's
you just
true.
did the DR.
Right. Yeah, I actually traveled to the Dominican Republic, to Punta Cana, just I guess a couple weeks ago, a week and a half ago, and so it was the same, very similar experience to what you described. So that regulation, that's another thing to consider. Not only consider what's going on in the country that you're thinking of visiting, but also what's going on in the state where you live, if you live in the United States, or the province, or wherever you may be watching from. So yeah, in New York State, where we both live, they have these new quarantine guidelines. Well, they've had the quarantine guidelines in place for a while, the 14-day guidelines, but you can avoid 14 days of quarantine if you follow their new guidelines. But that means that, like she had to do when I was in Punta Cana, I had to spend a day finding out where to go and setting up an appointment to go get the PCR test, to get the nasal swab, which is a lot of fun. The facility in Punta Cana was great, and I stayed at the TRS Turquesa Hotel, which just reopened. Beautiful hotel, by the way. Amazing staff, and they actually helped me to set up the appointment.
Oh, that's great.
And they called me the car and everything. And so I went to the Punta Cana Medical Center, which is a beautiful modern facility. I did not have to wait too long, but even so, it still took a good chunk of a day out of my time. And then I got the results back. But then again, just like Megan said, I had to get another test on the day 4. I had to stay, by myself with my husband for the first 4 days, take another test on day 4, and wait for those results before I was all cleared and good to go. So it is more complicated if you're going to follow the guidelines to stay safe.
Yeah. And here's the thing. People are going to travel whether we advise against it or not, whether the CDC advises against it or not. That's up to you. That's totally up to you if you want to travel. But these protocols are there for a reason, and the best thing that we can do is abide by them. And really, it's like anything. The safest thing you can do is not do it, right? But if you're going to do it, these are very clear ways to make it safe, not only for you, but for the people whose home it is that we are visiting. And that have you spoken to locals on the ground at all? Have you talked to them about their experience, how they're feeling about tourists coming back?
Yeah, in Mexico, they're glad to see tourists, obviously, because like you said, in a lot of these destinations, their livelihood depends on tourism, and so they want tourists to come back, and they need tourists to come back, and so they're very appreciative of people showing up and helping to support the local economy. So that's a good thing, but they also appreciate when people show up and support the local economy safely. And so I was chatting with one really nice guy who was making these snacks next to the pool in this really cool trailer at the Hyatt Ziva and in Cancun. And he said that he had his mask on. He was outdoors and it was hot out. He was wearing the mask, and I asked him how things were going. He said that he puts his mask on when he leaves his house in the morning to go to work, and he doesn't take his mask off until the end of the day when he goes home, at the very end of the day. But not all hotel guests think that way, and so I think they appreciate the business, and they want the business, they need the business, but they also appreciate equally when people are safe and we wear our masks and we don't get too close to the wait staff and things like that. So I think that's very important to consider.
And I had a very interesting conversation with a taxi driver, the one that took us to get our PCR test in Playa del Carmen. And, he was telling me that a lot of people in the hospitality industry in Mexico have already gotten COVID. And so they know how shitty it is. And for them, they're just very concerned about passing it on to their families, or losing work, or having their family members lose work because they've contracted COVID. And so while they are incredibly they're incredibly happy to be back to work, making money again, but they're just so deeply afraid of contracting the virus because it shuts everything down that they wish that visitors would comply to the protocols that have been so clearly put in place. And so it's just that my personal recommendation is don't travel, listen to the CDC, but if you do, just do so with the utmost caution, and that might make the vacation a little less fun, but it's not 2019 anymore.
Right. And we're not out of the woods yet. I mean, everybody's getting so excited, about the promise of the vaccine, and I am too. And I can't wait for it to be out and for things to be back to somewhat normal. But that's going to take weeks and months, and for it to be well distributed and proven effective in every country in the world and everything. So we're not going to be out of the woods for a while. So there's a lot to think about right now, and. So it's now is not the time for everybody to be traveling, but we want to help people to understand what is going on and what efforts the hotels are making, the destinations are making, how good a job Mexico really is trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
They're not doing a perfect job, and nobody is, and this country, the United States, is certainly not doing a perfect job either. But yeah, there is an effort being made, and so it's a matter of us all being responsible. Also, one thing I wanted to mention is that one of my friends who actually is visiting Mexico City right now has said that he lives in Chicago, and he's so impressed with what's going on in Mexico City. They have a lot of COVID cases there, obviously, but in that city, he said, compared to Chicago, he's never had his temperature taken so much, and he's never had so much hand sanitizer put on his hands, because every store you go into, every restaurant, every kind of business, no matter even if it's a small shop, they'll take your temperature and give you excuse me, I get all choked up talking about it, and give you hand sanitizer. There's someone there to give it to you. So he said his hands feel drunk because they have so much alcohol on it from all the hand sanitizer that's been offered. So they're making an effort, and so we need to step up and make an effort too.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point, because they really are. You feel it, airport aside, because the airport for me was actually quite stressful. But the second you get out of the airport and you're in the hands of the hospitality people who really are making the utmost effort, you do feel safe and taken care of. It's just interacting with other people, that other travelers, that is the problem.
Right. And like you said, also, it's not like the old days where you can socialize easily and meet fascinating people from Brazil or St. Louis or something like that. You're not going to be chatting as easily with people at the bar or the pool or something like that, because you need to keep your distance, and also there's not as many people traveling, bottom line. So it's just not the same experience, and in most cases, or maybe all cases, that like nightlife is closed or severely limited, so it's not a party atmosphere, and it shouldn't be right now.
Right. Oh, the other thing I wanted to note is, yes, New York State and the CDC is saying that you should get tested 72 hours before you come home, and then quarantine 72 hours after you come and get a test on the 4th day or the 5th day. They're saying that that's what you should do if you travel, but they're also saying, and this is important to note, that is not a guarantee. Because hypothetically, you could be coming home and come into contact with somebody that has the virus, and then you get tested before it has even kicked in. So what they're saying is, yes, get tested on the 4th day, but then still stay home for an additional 3 to 4 days. That's what you really should do if you want to be 100% certain about this. So just don't get confused that you're out of the woods. You're certainly lowering the risk. It's definitely, crossing a lot of things, checking a lot of boxes, but by no means is it a guarantee.
Right, that's a very good point. Yeah, because it's good to get tested, and it's good. It's definitely a good thing, and it does reduce the risk. But yeah, it's not like a free pass to then I don't even need to wear a mask, or I can go out and sit in a restaurant with people that I don't know well and without a mask and things like that. So yeah, it's definitely not a pass to do anything.
Sorry,
you have a question there?
I'm just looking. It's so hard to tell. Sorry.
The test is only a snapshot in time.
Yes,
That's
yes,
a very good point. Brian Major. See, Brian is the man you want to talk to.
Mm-hmm. Brian knows.
Yes, Brian knows. He's a fellow travel writer and an amazing journalist. So yes, he's a total expert in that. And he always comes up, Brian, you always come up with the best phrases and things.
It's
so
true.
I like the snapshot in time. I like that.
Also, Brian is one of the travel writers who is absolutely not traveling at all, specifically because of, we shouldn't. So. Right.
So that's a very good example of should people be traveling? And the answer is generally no. Unless you have to, because it's a personal decision, and unless you're staying inside your home all day, every day, everything has a certain amount of risk to it now.
Mm-hmm. So, does anybody have any questions for us? I'm squinting, but if you do, if not, I did this earlier with Sarah Greaves-Gabadon.
Oh, yeah.
Jet Set Sarah. We did this at noon. She talked about her recent trip to Grenada, and there were no questions because I think we were so thorough. So that
must be it, right? Which is so good because Megan is a master at all of this. She knows what she's doing, and so yeah, she covers all the bases. So that's good.
Fake it till you make it.
But no, and also through her reporting and through my reporting, we try to keep people up to date. But you can always send us a note via Instagram or via our travel blogs and everything. So there's always ways to get in touch with us, and I'm always interested, and I'm sure you are too, in hearing about your experiences too. So if you have decided to travel, I want to know why, and also what your experience was like, and what you've done to stay safe.
Yes, that's a really good point. I actually have a friend that's passing through Mexico City today, and then another friend who's a travel agent. She just went to Cabo today, and she said she's all PPE'd up.
Oh, good.
So I
okay.
would want to know what her experience
that's
was
a good point too. Actually, speaking of travel agents again, travel advisors. This is a great time to use a travel advisor, to use a travel agent, because they have to stay on top of this as well, just like we do. And so some of them have been traveling just like us as research trips. They call them familiarization trips, FAM trips, and to find out what the new normal is. So they're a good person to contact. Rather than just going online and booking a trip online without talking to a human, you can actually speak with a travel agent, or at least email with a travel agent, and they can tell you this is really what to expect. And if you don't feel comfortable with this, should you be doing this instead? And Brian asked another question.
If you're in the DR.
Yeah. I was in the Dominican Republic in Punta Cana, Brian, just last week or a week and a half ago at the recently reopened TRS Turquesa Hotel. And Tiaras is a beautiful hotel, and it just reopened as part of the Grand Palladium complex. So I was going there to see what the new protocols are there and how they're gradually reopening the entire complex. And also to experience my first PCR nasal swab outside the United States, which was an interesting experience. And I was very impressed with it because the facility was great, and the hotel staff were so good in terms of helping me out. They have a 24-hour on-site clinic and doctor, so they helped to refer me to the right place to go.
How was the ground experience?
The ground experience was good, I have to say, because the airport transfers were just me and the driver, but these huge vans. They were the kind of Mercedes-Benz vans or Sprinters, whatever. And so it was held 25 people, but it was just me and the driver. So I was able to sit rows back with my mask still, of course, and the driver's way up there. Ground transportation was great, and on the ground in the hotel, it was limited capacity, limited occupancy now, so a lot of personal space. And I have my thing that I always do now when I do travel at a hotel. If they don't ask, I tell them I don't want housekeeping to come into my room unless I call to ask for it. Mm-hmm. And usually I'm only on these work trips for 3 nights maybe, so I don't really need someone to come in and make my bed and dust things off. So that's just one other little way you can keep yourself from having too much contact with things that other high touch surfaces that other people might touch.
Mm-hmm. I imagine folks were actually happy to see visitors in a way.
They are. Yes. Yeah. I think people are. I spoke with the hotel staff there and in the DR and in Mexico, and people are happy to be back to work because I'm sure some people watching, like Brian, you too, maybe. I didn't have hardly any work, hardly anything to do for weeks and months at the beginning of this. And so just to be able to get back to doing what you love and doing your job and getting paid to do it, that's important. And so, people are happy to be back at work everywhere that I've spoken with anyone, and they're happy to see us, but they want us to wear a mask and not touch them.
Yeah, I mean, and for people who are just tuning in, what we've been talking about is the new CDC guidelines saying don't go to Mexico. Mexico is level 4, which is the highest level of risk, and they're saying that because travel to Mexico, they're saying, is one of the top ways now to either contract or spread COVID. And like I said, when we just signed on, I'm not a doctor, I'm not an expert, but Mexico is one of the only countries that had 0 restrictions for Americans, both coming in, and then there were no restrictions as we were coming back from Mexico. So when you get any large number of people moving around, moving across borders, case numbers are going to rise. That's just the science of it, and that's exactly what's happening. And what we've been saying is, ultimately, we're not recommending travel for leisure. There are people who have to travel. There's essential work. We understand that. But if you're planning a week-long vacation, this is probably not the time to do it. However, if you're going to do it, these health and safety protocols are put in place for the specific reason to keep you, your loved ones, other travelers, but most importantly, the people whose country you're visiting safe. And that's just a little sum up of what we've been talking about for the last 30 minutes for the people who are new, who have just signed on. But yeah, did we leave anything out?
I guess not. No. Yeah. So things are going to get better. 2021 is going to be better, right?
I fucking hope so.
We're gonna be talking about the next time we talk about, well, maybe not the very next time, but soon we're going to be talking about a totally different kind of travel that's going to be so much better again. So it's just a matter of time. We all have to be patient, and we all have to be careful, and we have to care about each other and ourselves, and take care of ourselves and each other. And so things will get better. So for now, just, stay safe, wear that mask if you can. If you don't feel too dorky, wear your face shield if you have to travel too, and no handshakes. There's lots of other ways to do it. I don't even really like this.
No,
I don't like that. I like just bowing.
And nobody has like a cute elbow.
That's true.
Like,
yeah, that's true. I have a gross elbow. Yeah, I just like bowing. I think that's nicer.
That's good.
Or some hotels in Mexico and in Punta Cana do this, where they place their hand over their heart. Have you seen that?
Yes, I just.
You don't like that?
Wait for this.
Uh-oh.
I just stayed at the brand new Charisma Margaritaville. They do this.
Oh, what is that? Like a chicken
No,
thing? Oh.
fins up. Like a shark.
Fins up? I love that. Oh, that's interesting. I had not seen that before. That's cool. I thought you were doing this because there's a certain hotel chain where their logo, to me, looks like a chicken head.
That's Chick-fil-A.
No, we don't do Chick-fil-A.
No, we don't.
No, there's a hotel chain that has like something that looks to me like a chicken
Is
head.
it El Cid?
No, it's not.
Oh.
I can't say what chain it is, but
Oh, okay.
anyway, it's a
I
very
thought they
nice
were doing
chain.
Parrot Head because of Jimmy Buffett,
Yeah.
but it's a shark. Anyway.
You have to be careful with things like that because you never know if something might be like a symbol for something that you don't know, like a gang symbol or something like that. So yeah, just maybe stick with like just bowing.
Just, anyway.
Those are our personal travel tips.
Yeah, so, Brian says it's strange. It is strange. So thanks, guys. If there are no other questions about travel, we could talk about other ways to greet each other on another day.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to be live again soon with better news.
Hopefully from Mexico one day soon. Anyway, stay safe, everybody. Thank you so much.
Ciao.
Bye. Awkwardly get up and end this.
Awkward.
So awkward.
Turn it off.
Oh my god.